Hey guys, it's Nika. I hope you guys are all doing good during our global pandemic and with online school and working. I hope you guys are doing okay with that and life's good as it can be. Anyway, for mini project number 2, I decided to do my project on Christina Rossetti. So last time I really liked doing a literary analysis approach, so I decided to take that same approach again. And the reason why I chose Christina Rossetti was because she wrote Goblin Market, and for some reason that specific poem just stuck out to me, and I really thought it was interesting because I saw 2 different perspectives on it. I could see it from a religious perspective, but then I could also see it from like the female sexual foulness perspective. So I was kind of curious about that. So that's really what made me decide to look more into Christina Rossetti and her life, a little bit of background on her. So, for my research process, it was a lot easier this time around just because it's the second time, so I had a better idea of like what to expect and how it would work, because last time I was super overwhelmed, like I had no idea where to start, but this time that was pretty easy for me. I just had to pick an author that I wanted to do some more research on and learn about, and that helped me with that. So I didn't have as many challenges or obstacles this time around on the project, simply just because of my experience with it from the past. So I think, yeah, I didn't really have any obstacles. I don't feel like any major challenges with this project. Anyways, so to start out, for my research on Christina, I had 3 main questions to drive my research. So the first thing I wanted to do was find out more about her family, because I feel like family is a super important influence on an individual, just because that's who you grow up with, like that's how you learn most of your stuff from. So that was the first part, was her family. And then the second thing I wanted to learn more about was her poetic influence, like what influenced her to write poetry. And yeah, the third thing I wanted to find out was if her work was at all relative to her own personal life and her own personal experiences. So to start off with her family, what I found is that she was the 4th child, the final child of her family, so she was the youngest of 4. She had 2 brothers, Gabriel, Dante, and William, who are also famous. Gabriel is in our textbook as well, and we did read one of his poems, Jenny. And she also had a sister. So her entire family was extraordinarily talented. Like, her family was full of artists, writers, poets, critics, like, you name it. Their family was, like, super talented, okay? And, so being surrounded by a family that was as talented as hers, it was easy for her to be the same way, to be talented too. It was kind of natural, like she was literally born for it. Even as a child, like her and her brothers would play this game where 2 of them would have to like write like a poem basically based on the guidelines of the 3rd one, and she always won those games. Like, she was so good at just like whipping it out. Basically, she would just be so good at just writing it. She was like lyrically gifted and just talented at writing. And then, let's see, sorry, let me look at my notes here. I don't want to like forget to tell you guys anything. She also had a grandfather, and he had a printing press. So by the time she was 16, she already had like over 50 works published, and they were printed at her grandfather's printing press. So that helped her too, I think, a little bit, because it gave her that access to being able to print her work and like get it out there. And let's see. Oh, another interesting thing that I found out was that like when her father became sick, all of her siblings and her mom, like they all worked. They all went out and got jobs and like made money to help support the family. But Christina stayed with him at home to like take care of him. And then she ended up getting sick herself too, which one doctor said that she had a heart condition, you know? But then other doctors were saying that she was like mentally ill. Like religious mania, I think is what they said. And it was kind of interesting because they were wondering if it's because that she fell ill so that she wouldn't have to go work, like get a job like the rest of her family. I thought that was interesting. But anyway, moving on to poetic influence. So, as a child, Christina spent a lot of time at her grandfather's cottage, like outside. She stated like prowling alone at her grandfather's cottage gave her a lot of inspiration for her earlier work, and she really liked the nature kind of aspect of it, and some of her works do focus on that. But eventually, when she got older, she had other influences, and then her like religious faith became a huge influence on a lot of her works. Like over half of her work were devotional, and all that religious stuff having to do with her faith. So those were her poetic influences as a child and kind of later in life. And then for the last thing that I wanted to learn about if her work was relative to her personal life experiences at all, the reason why I wanted to look deeper into this was because of Goblin Market. Like, I was just curious if because she was so involved in her faith, if it was supposed to be religious, like if she wanted people to take it as a religious thing, or if it was more supposed to be of like the sexual fallenness thing. And come to find out, she volunteered at, what was it called? She volunteered at the St. Mary Magdalene Penitentiary, which was a charitable institution for the reclamation of fallen women. So she did a lot of work there, and she was called like Sister Christina. So it's kind of interesting because I found that it was possible that Goblin Market was kind of a reference from that, because she worked with fallen women and she was so involved in her faith that it's kind of like it was relative to her personal life and experiences that she had. And I just thought that was super interesting because I was so like intrigued by that poem. I just wanted to know more about it, and just learning that about her made it like way cooler, I guess. I don't know, I'm weird, but yeah. So that's kind of like more of like, so that, I guess it's kind of like religious morals and the sexual fallenness like combined. I don't know, pretty cool. So I think I found out that yes, works were related to personal life for her and experiences. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up right here. I feel like I've already been talking a lot, and there's so much information, like it would take a much longer video to share it all with you guys, but those were the 3 main things that I learned, and I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about that. Hopefully it helped enrich your learning on the Victorian era, and I'll see you guys if we have another project.